Hey, welcome back. Here, let me just say this. In doing this here, I have noticed that I was beginning to get a little tired. So I'm going to try to bring a little bit more energy and focus, hopefully with not as much stumbling. I took an opportunity to refocus, zoom in. So here we go. Just going to pick back up. I left off with, I was talking about Bremerhaven. And I do want to say that I don't want to go into being too robotic. I said initially I wanted to do things chronologically, but bounce around a little bit. However, I've noticed that have been sticking to the chronological footprint and just going in order, like through 5th grade and 6th grade and 7th grade. So bear with me if I bounce around a little bit, but here goes. I'm going to pick back up at Bremerhaven. Bremerhaven, that's Germany, Bremerhaven, Germany. I was last talking about Karlsruhe and just one of my favorite bakeries. I mean, just an ideal bakery that sold pastries that I fell in love with when I was over in Germany. They also, right around the corner from that place, they had a Wiener Schnitzel. That was good too. But nonetheless, let me stick with what I was talking about. Bremerhaven, Germany. All right, I leave Karlsruhe, and I'm up in Bremerhaven, Germany. Northern Germany, as far as you can get up there, and it's cold. I mean cold and wet all the time. It was always rainy, and mixed with that cold, it made it kind of wintry, for lack of a better term. Great place to be though, real beautiful, real beautiful. I mean, you ought to see just some of the scenes of it, like the flowers and stuff, real beautiful. Anyway, I'm in Bremerhaven, Germany, and because it's isolated duty force, the company commander comes to us and goes, "Hey, we're going to be taking we're going to be offering a vacation. You know, you can use some of your leave time, and we're going to be taking a bus down to like in the Austria area. It's a place called Lake Kimchi. Lake Kimchi is pronounced by some, or Lake Kimchi. I think the Dutch pronunciation is Kimchi, and we always called it Lake Kimchi. So same area, but we all load up on a bus. We go down, and we're having a good time on the bus, just laughing because we're all in the military with soldiers, and we're just happy to have a break, get away from some of the monotony of life at this point. We arrive, and we go up to this lake. I don't quite remember the name of the lake, but I think it's Lake Kimchi. And I'm on this lake, and one of the guys that is in the Army with us, he takes his girlfriend, one of my buddies, and we're down there, and he goes, "I'm gonna rent a sailboat. Come join us. Me and my girlfriend is gonna go out there. Come join us." So I accept the invitation, and it was the very first time that I had gone sailing. I had been on a boat before because when we were up in Massachusetts, we used to do a lot of fishing, and I had been out on the Atlantic and understood the gravity of some of the waves and enjoyed that a lot. But we're on a lake, it's not as bumpy, except for when, a speedboat or something go by, it get a little bumpy at that point. But here we go. We're on this lake, and I don't know anything about sailing, and he's giving all the instructions. He's telling me when to lean back, when to pull on this rope, and when to make this adjustment. I don't know the jargon for sailing, thus I'm gonna stay away from some of the technical aspects of it. But anybody who knows about sailing would know what I'm talking about. But I'm doing it as instructed, and for the most part, it wasn't work, we were just cruising around. But here's the beauty of it. Like I said, I had been on the ocean before. and had the mist of water in my face before. But this was different. I don't know if it was because I was a soldier and was getting a break, or because it was just the perfect day. The perfect day. Because we're just sailing and with the boat just bouncing off of the waves and the mist coming up and hitting us. It is the single greatest feeling I have probably had. I mean, it's not many feelings that I've had that rival that. And I don't mean from an emotional standpoint. I mean just from a physiological standpoint, or just how it attacked or touched my senses, not attack my senses, but touch my senses. But the water, the mist on my face, and the sailboat going up and down, it was absolutely the best time on earth. But Germany was a good experience for me. I can remember once, going to another vacation that I had while I was over in Germany, or we would call it, we would take passes, like we'd get a 3-day pass or a 5-day pass. It wasn't leave, it was more of a pass. So we're on this 3-day pass that when I'm stationed in Würzburg, and we go down to King Ludwig's Castle. And God, that was a good feeling. I had some pictures of my Lake Kimsey, but here's the King Ludwig Castle. I'm with Gerald Lindsay, and Gerald Lindsay was absolutely my buddy. He was the guy I spoke of earlier from Alabama. He was from Auburn, Alabama. His father taught at the University of Alabama. I think he was a professor there. And I tell the story about the one guy that had that heavy accent, and Gerald Lindsay was just the opposite. You couldn't tell where he was from. He sounded northeastern, or Midwestern, I should say, more than anything with his tongue. But we're at King Ludwig's Castle, and he goes, he did a dare, and it was, when I reflect on it, it was like dumb that I did it. However, I learned something from it that I was able to carry for the rest of my life. And that is, they had a big wall around, and we were at the, inside the castle up at the top. And if you just bend over and look over the wall, God, it was a long fall. And if you fell, you were dead. I mean, you just checked out, absolutely checked out. But he goes, he gets up on this wall and he's walking it. And I'm like, hey, Lindsay, get down, man. And he was like, no, I'm free. And I'm like, Lance, get down, man. I'm scared because, the wind, it wasn't blowing heavily, but it was a slight breeze. But, you always think of a wind blowing and making you lose your balance. And the wall was pretty wide, it was, several feet wide. I'm just going to guess somewhere between, let's just say 3 to 4 feet wide. It was a pretty wide wall. Didn't have a moat around it at all, it was just a big drop off. Lindsay's walking it, and he goes, you'll never understand how it is to be free unless you come up here. And I'm like, no, man, I'm not getting up there. Get down. And I finally developed the courage to get up there because as he continued to navigate his walk, I'm beginning to think it may not be as dangerous, which was a dumb move on my behalf and his too, but we were young. And sometimes you do things when you're young that you wouldn't do as an older person. And I want to be sure that when I speak of this, I want you to understand this. And that is, I'm not advocating doing anything silly, because you can make a mistake in life and it'll cost you your life. And, if we had fallen on the other side, we would have been dead. So I'm not advocating any risky behavior, but I'm telling this story because it sort of freed something in me. he, he stood there and he was telling me, he said, we have life on this side and we have death on this side. And we literally could jump off the wall and back onto the ground, and we had life. And on the other side was death. And he goes, when we leave here, we'll understand what freedom is. And he was speaking specifically to me. I guess he had a liberated mind at that point. It was just a bit more advanced than mine. As a matter of fact, it was a lot more advanced than mine at the time. But I learned something that day. Well, he freed me, in a sense, that day of some of the inhibitions that I had built within. And it kind of freed my mind. And every time I think of Lindsay, Gerald Lindsay, I think of that moment. He's probably long forgotten this. Probably, certain things that are memorable to some are not memorable to others. But that was a memorable moment in my life. And I look now and say, I'm glad I kept my concentration, because it could have been not good, just put it that way. But yeah, I had to tell that story about Gerald Lindsay. I think fondly of him, even to this day, and some of my friends during that time in life. And as I took a break and then came back, and that's when I was welcoming you back to this session, took a minute or two to stretch my legs. And I also thought about Mom at that time. I've got a story for you, and this is it's sort of a Christmas story. I had gotten out of the Army, worked in Augusta, Georgia for about 4 years, and I got laid off. Unfortunately, that was just a bad time with the economy. But I got laid off from my job, and I had to move back to Memphis. Now, here's my Christmas story. Moved back, it was the summer, and the first Christmas back, and I had stayed away in the military and with my new job for several years, and I hadn't visited my family, during the holidays, because sometimes you just don't have those opportunities. So I'm back home for the first time in several years for Christmas. And we're at May's house, 4400 Doubletree Street in Westwood. That was the neighborhood. When I say Westwood, that was the name of the neighborhood. We're at May's house for Christmas. Everybody's there, everybody, the whole family. I mean, everybody. Just everybody. Generally we would have all of the family there, but in this particular case, Edward Earl had shown up. Herman was there. May was there. Sister and all of her family. Baba Jean, all of her family. Mom and all of her family. Just everybody, all of the kids, grandkids, just everybody there. And in this setting, there was laughter everywhere. And I mean laughter everywhere. You can hear people talking. And I'm sitting back, kind of secluded. I'm actually not sitting. I'm actually leaning up against a wall in between the living room and the kitchen. So I'm leaning up against this wall, and I'm looking at everybody. And I'm feeling the sense of family, because I hadn't had this here in my life in a while. And I'm feeling the sense of family, and I look around and there's laughter and there's just talking, and it's just the hum that's in the air at the time, the sounds of joy and family. And Mom walks over to me, And she hands me a card. And she didn't say anything, but I love you, Tony. That was all Mom said to me when she handed me this card. And I just looked at her and I just grinned. I wish I had said at that moment, I love you back, Mom. But I don't think I said it at that moment. I think I kind of looked at her and I said something to the effect of, what's this, you know? I wish I had said, I love you, Mom, in addition to what's this, is my point. So I take this card, she's walked away now. And mind you, everything in the background is, you know, it's kind of loud and laughter, and I mean laughing, everybody's there. And I'm leaning up against this wall and I look at this card Mom gave me. And there was it was a handmade card. Just a simple handmade card where she had folded a card together and just, she had written it out in her handwriting. And she said to me that, Tony, I'm sorry that I wasn't able to get you anything for Christmas, but times have been kind of rough and I just don't have the money like how I used to. But I was thinking about you this Christmas and I just wanted to make sure I gave you at least this card. And I hope you accept this card and realize that it's something special to me. And if I could have done better, I would have done better. And it was a good little note. And after I finished reading that card, the card was so touching. I was like, this is the greatest gift I've ever received. It was better than anything. I mean, it was better than anything that I had ever received. And I mean, I received a green bike. I had a red bike, a red and black bike, when I was really young. And I had a green bicycle as I got older. Around, I'm gonna say 6th grade, I had the green bicycle. It was a 3-speed, it was a 5-speed. It was the first time I went from a regular bike to a 5-speed. So both of those gifts were really important to me. But this gift trumped them all, trumped everything, even the little G.I. Joe man that I had received over the years. I looked at that card and I read that card and I said, you know, this is the greatest gift I could ever receive. And I folded the card back together. And at that moment, I realized even deeper what family was. And they started handing out gifts. And Mom had given me a Christmas gift. It was a gift. It was a little black and white television set. So she indeed had given me a gift. But I told Mom, you know, after I received the gift and, you know, everybody were exchanging gifts, you know, we normally would pull a name and everybody would buy a person a gift. And the family would give all the individual gifts also. So, but when we did the family thing, we would only just pull, you know, we would pull a name and then give that one person a gift. But Mom's gift was special. And I thanked her for it. But then I went back to her. It was like after a few moments, you know, everybody had eaten and stuff, you know. And I was standing there next to, May had a little stripy couch. And I was standing there next to the couch by the end table. And I was like, Mom, you know what? Thanks for the television. But there'll never be a gift any more special than this card you gave me. And I think I touched my mother's heart, or my mama's heart at that moment, because she had touched my heart. But I think she really felt how appreciative I was at that moment. I'm getting kind of carried away here because, but I did want to tell that story. That is my favorite Christmas story. It's something that I always try to share, and anyone who know me closely, they'll probably be able to tell you that they've heard that story before. But that was the greatest gift I have ever received. It's better than money, better than any gift. It was a card. It was a simple handwritten card. And you know, you would have to look at yourself one day, you as meaning anyone out there observing this moment, you would have to look at yourself one day and realize that, if you haven't already done so, it's not about money. It's not about money. It's not about money. It's about the gift itself. A piece of paper was the greatest gift I've ever received. A piece of paper, a handwritten note was the greatest gift I've ever received. It wasn't $1,000 gift or a Rolex. No, I can't say Rolex. I mean, whoever gets the gift of a Rolex. But I was just trying to give that as an example of an extraordinary gift when I use that example. But just think of any gift that you've ever received that had monetary value assigned to it or associated with it. Nothing is ever greater than the simplest gifts. And what I learned at that moment is sometimes you can do some simple things and it's worth more than money. And I kid you not, when I say that you can spend time with somebody and it'll end up being your greatest gift, your greatest feelings. I mean, you can just sit down in the sun in a park, for an example, and you'll remember that moment more than you will a gift that you've forgotten about 15 years, 5 years, 2 years later. So keep in mind that some of the simplest things are the greatest things that you can give or receive. Okay, what did I want to do? I also had to give you some clarification on something. I was talking about the boys club, right? There was a person that I omitted, a guy named Mr. Oglesby. He was I think he was like the second in charge at our facility, or boys club facility. You know, I didn't want to leave out his name because I think about how he affected my life. So I did want to go back to that. You know, I use the word clarification. It wasn't to clarify anything. It was more to add a sub-note to that chapter, or, you know, my time there at the boys club. And, you know, and let me just stick with boys club. We used to have something called hobo stew. Hobo stew. Every Saturday at the boys club, you used to have to bring, or we used to have to bring a canned good. You know, it wasn't, they would ask that we did it. It wasn't mandatory, but, you know, in keeping with the good spirit of that day, which was Hobo Stew Day, you would try to bring a canned good. And here's what they did. They would have a giant pot, I mean, just a big giant pot, and they would cook outside. We used to have like an open flame, and there was this big giant pot on like a little tripod to hold the pot up over the flame. And it was a metal tripod. And they would make hobo stew. Everybody would bring a canned good. This kid would bring some English peas. This kid would bring stewed tomatoes. This kid, you know what I mean, corn. But everybody would bring something, and they'd open up all the cans and put all of the cans down into this one pot. And, I guess put tomato sauce, like tomato paste or something also. And they would stir it up. I mean, stir it. And it's a big giant pot now. Keep in mind, this is the boys club and it was like 100 of us. So it had to be a pretty big pot that fed everybody. But they stir it up and we used to sit around and they would tell stories. And we would wait for it to cook. And I tell you, you're talking about kids that were antsy back then. I was one of those antsy kids. Couldn't wait for it to finish stewing. But hobo stew was a great day in that once the stew was filled, everybody got a bowl, one bowl each. And it was just a good day. It was when everybody came together and we were sitting outside, mainly in the summertime. We would be sitting outside and open flame. They'd be telling stories, and one of the best storytellers was Bill Lamar. He used to always tell stories. But you know what? Here's one thing I didn't mention earlier. We used to sing religious songs too. Like Johnny Appleseed. And that was a religious song about giving thanks for what you had or what you were receiving. And most folks won't even associate the boys club with biblical teachings, but that was something good, I think, political correctness at this time would probably trump that. But back then, there was no political correctness, and religious beliefs were shared, between adults and children openly in public. But I can understand if somebody don't want other religious beliefs pushed off on the kids, but this was good for us, and it was great for me because I've maintained a lot of those principles and, will never abandon those either. But we used to sit around sing those songs. They would tell us stories, almost like ghost stories during the day. Because I think Hobo Stew started around 11 a.m. In the daytime. And I think it ended at about 3. I can't quite remember. It's been several years ago. But that was a good moment, and I can't help but remember that those were some times that were good for us. Let's go back to the devotion piece. My devotion is to the boys clubs because that was a very important time, and right to this day I make donations to them. I don't have much, but I'll send $10, $15, and when I can $20, but I try to be consistent at it, and be a donor, because just because you're no longer in that environment doesn't mean that the environment should go away. I like to make little contributions because I know that it was important. Let's see here. Let's see if I can mirror that to an adjoining thought based on, some things that happened in the boys club. I worked as a junior counselor at Camp Phoenix also. I was like 12, almost 13, and we went to Camp Phoenix, and I actually was earning a paycheck at 12. I was a junior counselor, and we actually got paid. Very seldom do you see 12-year-olds getting checks, but I actually, believe it or not, got a little check. It was $35 or something like that. It was a little small amount. However, it was big for me.
You